Hey everyone, this is Finn. In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to create a vector style character using the tool set in Animate and using a mouse. I am not going to be using a drawing tablet in this video. I also didn't use a drawing tablet to create my reference image, which you will see. I'm going to go to File, Import, and then Import to Stage. Then I want to go to my desktop and find my picture. My picture is way bigger than my standard preset animate file stage right there. So I'm going to have to scale her down. This is the main character of a book I'm writing. Now I'm going to click and press Shift to make sure that I am scaling down proportionally. Then I'm going to zoom in with Control Plus. There we go. Now that I have my reference image in, I can lock the layer. And then I'm going to double click where it says layer 1 and rename this layer reference. Create a new layer by pressing this plus button inside of a box. When you hover over it, it'll say new layer. Double click on the name and we're going to call it colors. And now on this layer, I am going to just make a couple of ovals that represent the different colors that I'm going to need so that I don't have to keep getting back to this image over and over again. I'm going to turn the opacity down. I'll actually put the colors in rectangles and create a palette here. And I am just taking all of the colors that I see, except for black, because I know that the outlining is black. Alright, those are all of the colors that we use with her. I'm going to lock this layer, and then I'm going to right click on my reference layer, click Properties, and then click Opacity 50%. That's going to make it a little bit easier for us to draw on top of that. And now let's create another new layer. This one is going to be called Head, because we are going to start with her head. Let's zoom in by pressing Control Plus, and then I am going to go up. Let's select the oval tool, and we want a black outline right here where it says stroke color. You want to make sure that we have a solid black outline, or if you want a different color of an outline, you can do that too. And then I am going to grab her skin tone from the color palette that we have up here. Right here. Very good. Let's use the oval tool to create a oval that's about the size of her head. We're going to probably have to adjust it, and that's fine. Click your selection tool, click and drag to box select the entire thing, and let's use the free transform tool to move it into place and then kind of edit it. We are going to actually right click on the head layer, then click Properties. I'm going to change the visibility to opacity 50%. which is this middle radio button right in here, in between visible and invisible. Click opacity, 50%, and you can adjust this here if you need to. This is just so that I can see the drawing and the shape at the same time. Go. Now I can right click, select properties, and then select visible just to check. Yep. Alright, now after creating that simple head shape, I will turn the opacity back to 50%. Let's get started on our ears. Click the oval tool, and then click and drag until you have a circle that is about the size of one of these ears. If you cut it in half, because we are going to use the free transform tool and our box select by clicking and dragging to select half of the ear and separate it. To do that, just select that half of the ear, click and drag until they are separated. Now take your right ear, we're going to click and drag until it is on this side, but we are going to start with our left ear. Let me zoom in by pressing Ctrl+. Make sure your origin point here is right at the center of the right side, this right edge here. Click and drag your ear in front of the ear in the reference picture, and then you want to rotate it and it's okay if you need to adjust. Just make sure you do any adjustments before you deselect. There we go, I like that. So now I'm going to deselect. What that does is the lines actually merged, and now I have a little bit of line going there, a little bit of line going there, but it deleted the any space that was separating them. Now the colored part is all one section instead of being two separate parts. Let's do the same with the other side. I'm going to use box select by clicking and dragging to select both the outline and the color. Make sure my origin point is right at the center left side here, facing her face. I'm going to move it into position and then rotate it as well. And now I am going to transform it just a little bit. There we go. A little bit. There we go. Awesome. Now press enter, or actually now deselect by clicking somewhere else. As you can see, this side, this line that extends up is a lot longer than this side, so to fix that, we are going to choose one of them. I am going to choose this end here. Hover over the end of the line until you see this little right angle symbol that appears next to the cursor. So hover the cursor over the end of this until you see that, and then click and drag it down until it looks about the same as the other side. Perfect. And that is a good head without hair for now. Let's start working on the face. Let's start with the eyes. I'm going to add a new layer, and I'm going to call it face. And then I'm going to lock the head layer for now. Now let's select the line tool right here, and I'm going to click and drag a line from one corner of her eye to the other. Then I'm going to make sure I have my free transform tool selected and hover around the middle of this line until I see this little curve. That's this little curve symbol that appears next to my cursor. Click and drag to change the curve and shape of your line. Then I'm going to add another line and connect it to the end of both of the ends of the first line right there. And then I'm going to use my free transform tool, hover until I see that curve option, click and drag down. Sometimes you need a little bit more than one line to do what you want. So I'm actually going to press Ctrl Z. And instead of creating another line to go all the way around, since the bottom of her eye is more rounded out and the top of it is a little more angled, I'm going to use my line tool and connect a line from the corner of the other line to the middle of the bottom of the reference picture eye. Then let's click and add another line starting from the line that you just created. There we go. Now select the free transform tool. We're going to zoom in. We're going to make sure these two lines are connected by hovering over the ends and then clicking and dragging until we see that they're connected. Now I'm going to use the same method as before to curve these two lines to the shape that we want. And then I will make sure that these two lines are attached here. There we go. Now, if I wanted to, I can move the whole thing by hovering over this corner and clicking and dragging. There we go. Now I'm going to save myself some time and box select this eye outline. Then I'm going to press Ctrl C and Ctrl V. That's going to copy and paste a new line for my eye. We need to flip it so that it can be the other eye. Right click, transform, and then flip horizontal. And just kind of align it with the reference image eye. There you go. Now you have your two eyes. Let's use our oval tool to create the actual eye pupil shape inside. I'm going to make sure that I have a fill color of black, and in this case a stroke color of nothing. So I'm going to click this white box with a red slash. It is going to make it so that there is no outline. I'm going to click and drag right over that reference I gave myself. Now I am going to use my selection tool, click on that shape, and then press Ctrl C and then Ctrl V. That's going to paste that same shape, and we can use that to make sure that we do the perfect symmetrical shape for the other eye. There we go. And then I'm going to deselect it. Awesome. Let's see what it looks like so far with the head layer visible completely. There we go. We can make whatever adjustments we want to, but for now, I am liking it. It's not completely even, but nobody's face is also completely even, and I like the way hers looks, so we're gonna keep it. If I wanted to, I could drag all of this by pressing Control, or by pressing Shift and selecting it, and maybe moving it a little bit that way. There we go. See, I'm nitpicky, even though I just said I wasn't gonna do it. I did it anyway. We are going to add a white color by changing the fill color to white and then using the paint bucket tool. And making sure that we are selected on the face layer, we are going to paste that white into the white of her eyes. Now I'm going to click on the head layer, right click, go to Properties, turn opacity back to 50% and press OK again, because we are going to move on to our eyebrows. Let's select the line tool. Make sure you are on your face layer. I'm going to click my selection tool and deselect the eyes first. Then with my line tool selected, let's zoom in. I'm going to put a line right here. Then I'm going to create one more here and one here. Kind of made a weird triangle, but now we are going to use that curve editing system that I showed you to create the eyes to curve out these eyebrows. So with the free transform tool selected, hover over the middle of your line until you see this curve icon, click and drag to change your curve. And then I am just going to click and drag until everything is how I want it. Just adjusting everything to what it looks like in my reference image. There we go. Now I am going to select these lines by clicking and dragging and then using box select on just this eyebrow. Then I'm going to press Ctrl C and then Ctrl V, right click, transform, and then flip horizontal. Then I'm going to click and drag my eyebrow into the correct place and deselect it. Now I'm going to press Ctrl- to zoom out. And I see that they're a little bigger than I drew, so I'm going to zoom in and adjust a little bit more. I'm going to hover over these corners, click, make sure that you're clicking and dragging both of them together. And then I'm going to kind of soften out the eyebrow here by placing it right there till I like what it looks like. There we go. Now, I am simply going to box select the other one and delete it by pressing delete on my keyboard. I'm going to box select this eyebrow and press Ctrl C and Ctrl V. Right click on it and then with it selected, press transform and then flip horizontal and move it back into place. Let's see if this is a little bit better. I think I'll move it back a little bit more. Now I'm going to zoom out by pressing Ctrl-. That's better. Now I'm going to use my eyedropper tool over here and select the color of her hair, which is I put right next to her skin tone. And I am going to bucket fill those eyebrows. Now let's move on to her nose and mouth. Select the line tool and let's draw a line right here on the bridge of her nose from one corner to the next. And now we are going to use our free transform tool to curve it upwards. Very good. Now we want two more lines to represent the nostrils. I'm going to place one line here and one line here. And now I'm going to use my free transform tool to curve those inward a little bit. Now select the line tool again and draw a line for her mouth. She is making a neutral face right now, so we are going to curve this line slightly upward. Not so that it is a frown, but just so that it is more of a neutral, blank face. Make sure it is dragged into position. Now let's zoom in by pressing Ctrl+ and create 2 more lines for the details of the corners of her mouth. One right here and one right here. Now we're going to do some of the smaller details on her face, like the crease of her bottom lip and the crease of her eyelids. We're going to start with the bottom lip. Let's create a line going from here to here where I drew that line on the reference image. Now let's go to Free Transform Tool and make sure that's selected. And let's bring the curve down a little bit. Now I'm going to scroll up to the creases of her eyebrows, select the line tool, and as usual just create a line right here where the reference line is. Go to Free Transform Tool, select it, and then click and drag to edit the curve until it's just the way you want it. Now I am going to just copy and paste this line right here, right click, transform, and flip horizontal to save me some time. And then I'm actually going to make sure my Free Transform Tool is selected and rotate it just a little bit to fit this eye better. There we go. One more thing I would like to edit on the head is the ears. We have some detail on the ears that we want to add before we add our hair in particular. We can hold spacebar, which is going to bring up this little hand tool. We can click and drag to move our canvas here, or you could also use this hand tool, click it, and then once you have it selected you can click and drag as well. So I'm going to do that. And then I'm going to zoom in, select the line tool, and we are going to click from right here, and I'm going to set a line here. Let's use the Free Transform Tool. I'm going to curve it upwards this way. I'm going to select my line tool again, and we're going to create 2 more lines, one here and one here. Select the Free Transform Tool and curve there we go. Now I'm going to just add one more line going from just a little bit into the top of this line here that curves in the ear. I'm going to start here and move it down here and then curve it back. I'm actually going to adjust this just a little bit more to make it smaller. There we go, much better. And I'm going to select that entire set of lines by holding Shift and selecting the entire set there. Then let's press Ctrl+C and Ctrl+V, drag it over to the other ear, and we are going to right click, transform, and flip horizontal, and just adjust your ear into place. If it helps, you can zoom out. I am going to use my Free Transform Tool and rotate these lines. And I'm actually going to adjust the other set as well by holding Shift and selecting all those lines. I'm going to rotate them to match the other side's adjustments. Alright, now I'll zoom out, see how that looks. Try to see if they are decently, consistently spaced. Yep, it seems pretty good to me. And most of this part here is going to be covered by hair, so I'm not going to even worry about it, the details in this area. Now let's just check to see that our face looks good. I'm going to right click on our head layer, go to properties and check visible. There we go, I love it. I'm just going to make a minor adjustment to the mouth and the crease underneath the mouth by using box select, and then I'm going to move it. It's okay if you deviate from your reference image, because most of the time you're not going to create a perfect reference image, and you definitely should take advantage of your digital tools and adjust and edit more easily from this platform than you would be able to traditionally anyway. So yep, if you want to deviate from your reference image, this is the perfect place to do so. Remember that your reference image is for your benefit. So I don't have to stick to the mouth placement that I created. Well, very good. I like that head. And I like those eyebrows. Everything about the face I am into. So we are going to move on. Since we are finished with the face and the head, we are going to add a new folder, double click, and rename it head. And I'm going to drag my face and head layer into that and collapse it using this little triangle next to it. Now, if we want to, we can change the opacity of all of this at once. I am going to lock the layer for now, right click, properties, and then change the opacity to 50%. That's going to help us when we continue to create the rest of her body. Let's add a new layer, double click it, and name it neck. I'm going to take a rectangle tool, and then I am going to make sure that I have her skin color selected. Also make sure that you have a black stroke color right here so that you have the black outline. We're going to select slightly above her head and click and drag. Then we are going to use the free transform tool and select that. Before we move on, we are going to make it easier for ourselves by making the properties, visibility, 50% opacity, and pressing OK, like we've been doing with the other layers. That way we can see what's going on underneath. Let's click and drag to scale a little bit more. I want to make sure that I keep the top of the neck right here. It's going to be behind the head, so we don't have to worry about it. But I want to create the curve of the neckline using this black line right here. So to do that, we are going to make sure that we have our free transform tool selected. Hover over the center until we get that curve icon again. Click and curve down. There we go. Now we're going to create her shirt. Let's select our line tool. And I'm going to click right here, not at the corner, right here, but right here. I'm going to click and drag to the end of her sleeve. Then I'm going to use my free transform tool to curve it in the shape of how I want her shoulder to be. And I might adjust exactly where that center point is. Now, let's drag a line from that line to the bottom of her sleeve here. And then from the bottom of that line to the bottom of her armpit. Now use the free transform tool to adjust. Make sure that your lines are connected. And curve anything you want to. I'm going to add slight curves here. Move it more like this, and then add a little bit of a curve. There we go. Now I'm going to select this line here, press Ctrl C and then Ctrl V. Then drag it over here where I have this kind of little seam where her shirt is hemmed. There's a different color at the end of her sleeve. So we want a line there. Perfect. And now let's keep doing the left side of her body for now. I am going to draw a line going from her armpit down to the end of her shirt. And then bend that inwards. Then I am going to create a line from the end of that line to the middle of her belt there. And curve it down to be more like the bottom of your shirt. Perfect. Now we're going to select the entire left side of the shirt that we just created. I'm going to, with the free transform tool selected, click and drag to box select everything I can. Then the remaining, I'm going to hold Shift and click the individual parts. Now I'm going to press Ctrl C and then Ctrl V. Right click, then press transform and flip horizontal. We're going to adjust it after placing, so don't worry about it being completely perfect. I'm just going to set mine right here for now. Let's start with the bottom and go up. I'm going to zoom in, and with my free transform tool still selected, I'm going to make sure that these are combined. Very good. I'm going to double check some of the other corners as well, just to make sure that they are connected. Sometimes what happens is you need to connect it from another part of the line, and if that happens, you can select the end and press delete, and that will get rid of it. There we go. That extra tail end I meant. I'm going to Control minus. And we are going to now go to the armpit. I'm going to click and drag this corner up to where our armpit is. And then I'm going to adjust the curve of this line here. Let's adjust the sleeve while making sure all of our lines are connected. Sometimes what you have to do is that method where it connects from a different part of the line. And we've got this extra tail end here like before. Select it, press delete on your keyboard to get rid of it, and adjust any curves that you need to. There we go. Now I'm going to go up and adjust the top of the sleeve. I'm actually going to delete this line because it's giving me some grief. Because I can just move this up here and then add a new line. Problem solved. And now I'm going to use the free transform tool to connect this line to the neck about the same place as the other one. And make sure that curve of the shoulder is similar to the other side as well. Make last minute minor adjustments. There we go. So now we've got our shirt, except for the collar. I'm going to click this line right here and then press Control C and then Control V. Drag it down. Make sure that the origin point line is right here at the bottom center. And then we're going to adjust little by little. We are not going to be seeing the collar of her shirt very much past where you see it in the reference image, so I'm not going to worry about making it perfect. There we go. That's pretty good to me. I'm going to adjust the neckline a little bit more as well. There we go. I like that. Now let's color the shirt by using the paint bucket tool. I'm going to go over here to our colors and select the blue, the bright blue color. That is the color of the end of her sleeves and the collar of her shirt. Okay, only this right one actually colored, so that means these two are not closed. We want to make sure that with our free transform tool we are fixing anything that... There we go. That makes sense. Since we duplicated it from that one, that would make sense that we had things here to fix as well. There we go. So all I was doing there is cleaning up here, making sure that all of my lines are closed. And then also just doing a little aesthetic adjustments along the way. There we go. Alright, and we can do more adjustments later. Very good. There we go. Alright, now that should be able to be painted. Let's click the paint bucket tool. And now we can color both of those in. Let's change our fill color to the white, the off-white color that is next to the blue one. And the shirt is having the same issue, so let's use the free transform tool to make sure that our lines are closed. There we go, got that one. I know we got this one. Let's try again. There we go, it works, so we know it's closed. Now we are going to turn the opacity from 50% back to 100 by clicking visible in our properties. Let's select something else to deselect this. Okay. Now you can see that the layering order needs to be adjusted slightly because our neck should not be showing above the head. We should have the head in front of that part of the neck up here. So we are going to move the head layer above the neck layer. Now let's change the opacity of the head layer by right-clicking, going to Properties, clicking Visible. Since this layer is not really the neck layer anymore, we are going to double-click it and rename it Torso. Then we are going to add a new layer. Double click it and we're going to name it Arms. Once again, we are just going to select our line tool. I'm going to create a line right here to represent the forearm. And I'm going to curve it a little bit. Let's add another line from there to the sleeve. Awesome. Now I'm going to do the same with the bottom. One line here. About the same place that you ended the other one. Now let's use the free transform tool. Very good. Now I'm going to create the hands at the end, which are balled up in fists right now. I'm going to start with the thumb. And as always, use my free transform tool to adjust. Sometimes you might find, like now, that you need more than that one line for the curve. So I'm going to put 2. I'm going to attach one to the end and then to the top part of this thumb, the other to the top part of the thumb to the where this part of the thumb is. Delete that remaining piece there, and then I'm going to use my free transform tool to curve out this thumb. Awesome. That should be good. Now let's use our line tool to go up here. I'm going to create another line going down to the knuckle here, another one to this knuckle, and then to the tip of the finger, and then loop it back down here. Now I'm going to use my free transform tool to curve as much of that out as I can. While we're at it, we're going to just double check that everything is connected. Just anything that you need to before we move on. That's perfect. For now, at least. I'm going to box select this side and then press and hold shift while selecting these 2 remaining lines. And then I'm going to press Control C and then Control V. Right click, transform and flip horizontal. Then I'm going to attach that over here. Let's zoom in. And let's rotate it just very slightly, not too much, because it's okay that it doesn't align with the reference image. Alright. Gonna make sure any open spaces are connected. And I'm gonna move this down. There we go. And they are not going to connect to the shirt because it's on a different layer right now. And that layer is locked. Now we are actually going to use our line tool to close up the arms. I'm going to press Control plus to zoom in. And starting with this left side, I'm going to click and drag a line going from this side to the other. To make it easier to see, I'm going to change our layer property for the torso layer to opacity 50%. Now it's easier to see the layer we're working on. There we go. Sometimes it takes a little bit of playing around with. we are just going to do this. That way we can use the paint bucket tool. And since we're going to have this layer underneath our torso layer, I'm going to go ahead and do that right now. I'm going to click on my arms layer and drag it down under my torso layer and release it. Let's do the same for the other side. I am going to select my line tool and connect this end to the other. And make sure they're really connected. And then I am going to curve inwards towards the sleeves. Perfect. Now I'm gonna go find, actually we have our skin color already right in front of us, so we are going to grab it with the eyedropper tool and then use the paint bucket tool to color those arms. Awesome. Now I'm going to put the torso layer visibility at full opacity, just so that we can see. And this is our character so far. We are going to move on to her shorts. But before doing so, I am going to organize my layers just a little bit here. I'm going to click and drag my timeline up so I can see more. I'm going to add a new folder, and I'm going to rename that torso/arms, and drag my torso and arms in there. Now instead of having all of those layers open, we can see folders with those layers containing them. We got our head and we got our torso and arms, which is pretty accurate to what we are looking at. Head, torso, and arms. Now, since we are going to be working on the bottom half of her body, I'm actually going to create another new folder and name it top half. You want to click and drag the head into that folder and the torso and arms. Make sure that they are still in the same order, even inside of the new folder. We can create another folder that will be underneath top half called bottom half. Let's turn the opacity of the top half properties by right-clicking on the layer set and clicking visibility opacity 50%, just like the rest. Now it's going to be easier to see what we're working with. I'm going to create another layer, drag it into the bottom half grouping of folders there, and I'm going to name this layer shorts. At first, we are going to ignore the belt. We are just going to create the lines for the shorts underneath. So remember that we are not going to be able to connect these lines to the lines on the other layers, so don't worry about them. I'm actually going to mimic this pant line here. Since the pants are going to be underneath the top half layer folders, you're not going to have to worry about them seeing this. I'm going to click and curve this down. There we go. Now I am going to click from that line and drag down to where the shorts start to roll up here. I'm going to curve them out a little bit. And now I'm going to put a line at the bottom of where her shorts are rolled up, and I will make sure that it's curved to that reference line right there. Now I'm going to create lines to represent her rolled up shorts. And then use the free transform tool and curves to adjust it. There we go. All it takes is a couple of adjustments to figure out what you want it to look like. And now we're going to finish this half for shorts. Now we are going to select the left half. And let's press Control C and Control V. Oh, it looks like I didn't select all of it there, so I'm actually going to press Control Z a couple times, and then make sure I am selecting everything. I'll press Control C, Control V, right click, transform, flip horizontal, and you're going to try to match it up as the best as you can. I'm actually going to line up the this corner up here to where it is supposed to be, so I'm going to use my free transform tool, put my origin right there, move it up, and then just kind of rotate. I'll control zoom, or control plus, excuse me, so that I can have a little more control over where I'm placing this. I'm going to zoom out, and now I'm going to rotate it a little more. Okay, and now we can adjust this line here. Connect to our other leg. Awesome. I'll curve these out a little bit. So now we have the shorts. We can adjust it however we want. So that's just me adjusting to how exactly I want it to look like. Alright. So those are for shorts, and we can keep adjusting later. Alright. Now let's start on her belt. I am going to create a new layer above the shorts layer. I'm going to double click it and call it belt. And then I'm going to create two lines, one to represent the top of her belt and one to represent the bottom of her belt. I'm going to curve them to match her waistline. Okay, I have these lines extending a little bit outward, and we're going to close it with two more lines. There we go. Next, we want to create the belt buckle. I'm going to use my rectangle tool this time and make sure that we don't have a fill color by selecting the fill color down here and then selecting this white box with a red slash in it. Again, and resize it. And now we're going to delete the lines that are inside of that section. So what I mean by that is select your free transform tool and select these two lines inside of that belt buckle and press delete. Now we are going to select the rectangle tool again and create a smaller rectangle inside to represent the belt part again. There we go. Now we have our buckle and we have our belt. Now we just need to create the little pockets that come with her belt. To do that, we are actually going to create a new layer to make it easier on ourselves and lock the layers below it, the shorts and belt layer. This new layer is going to be called pockets. And now let's use that rectangle tool again we're going to put one right there. And another one right here. And yes, these are not the correct shape, but we are going to adjust them with our free transform tool now. So I'm just going to align them to my reference. This corner I want to bring down. Very good. Now we just need to add some more lines using our line tool. One right here, and down, and then connect it to the bottom corner here. Next we want to make our flap. I am going to turn the opacity of the belt and shorts down so that we can see a little bit easier on our pockets. Make sure we're selecting our pockets layer again. And I'm going to create this flap like this. Perfect. Just a simple thing. Adjust what I want. There we go. It's starting to get the shape I want a little bit better, and then we're going to take this line and set it right there. And then I'm going to curve this line here. Make everything look a little bit more like fabric. And then we're going to move this point up a little bit. Oh, we want to make sure that all of our lines are attached. And then we can adjust. All right, that's enough for that pocket there. Let's curve our second pocket a little bit as well. This one should be a little easier because it's a different angle. I'm actually going to delete this line here for now because we were going to create the flap first and then add that line like we did with that pocket there. Let's select our line tool. And I'm going to take a line starting from here. Or actually, I'm going to start my first line right here. Stop about here and then attach it to the top like you see on the first pocket. Then let's curve out this flap. Awesome. Now we're going to add that crease again, right here to the bottom of the pocket. Now I'm going to do some more adjustments before I copy and paste these pockets to the other side, as well as adding the buttons. So there we go, everything's all curved out. All right, that's good enough. Now to create the buttons, I'm going to use the oval tool and create two very simple buttons. Now I'm just going to select both of those pockets on this layer, press Ctrl C, and then Ctrl V, right click, transform, and then rotate horizontal, and drag it to the other side. Now we have two sets of pockets. Let's go ahead and clean whatever you want up. Now that you see what it looks like all together. And now we are going to color the belt, shorts, and pockets. First, we're going to color the pockets. I am going to go up to get this second to last darker gray color is the color of our pockets. So I'm going to use the eyedropper tool and select that gray color. Then we are going to use our paint bucket tool to just paint those pockets. I'm going to color the buttons a lighter gray. Awesome. Now that we have those pockets done, we can actually take this pocket layer. I'm going to keep it above the torso and arms layer of the top half folders, because I want these pockets to go over the shirt that's tucked into her pants. And just to clarify, to move a layer, you want to select it and then click and drag to the new place you want. And we want our pockets to at least be over our shirt. I am going to select belt, change the layer properties to visible. Now we are going to grab our belt buckle color, which is this last silver. Use the paint bucket tool. Make sure that your layer is unlocked. And then just click to fill that space. Now I'm going to make the rest of the belt that she is wearing black. Very good. Let's go and grab her shorts color, which she has two-toned shorts. Let's grab the lighter color first with our eyedropper tool. And now we are going to make the not rolled up section of her shorts the lighter green. We want to make sure that we are selecting our shorts layer and that it is not locked. We also want to change the layer properties so that the opacity is 100 or the visibility is checked visible, in other words. So now I've colored that top half. I'm going to go making sure that I am deselecting the lines first, because if you pick another color while you have lines selected, you are going to change the color of those lines. So I'm making sure I deselected those. And then I'm choosing the darker green color. And those are the color of where her shorts are rolled up. I'm going to zoom out. Now let's see our progress. I'm going to take the top half properties and select visible. And then I'm going to select something else. There we go, we are doing great. I'm going to turn the reference image off really quickly by selecting the little checkered grid right here. We've got our upper body and our shorts, our belt, our pockets. Now we just need the legs, the feet, all the shoes and all that come with the feet obviously, and the hair. So I'm going to make sure that reference, which I just realized I spelled wrong. I spelled it reference. So I'm going to make sure that says reference. Now I'm going to unhide that layer. Go back to your bottom half. And underneath your shorts layer, we want our new legs layer, which we double click, name it legs. We'll start with our left leg and actually create our left shoe, and then we are going to duplicate it and flip it to create our other shoe and leg. Select your line tool. I'm going to create a line going here to the knee, as well as on the other side. Then I am going to attach 2 more lines going down the bottom part of her leg. I'm going to attach that line. I accidentally created a new little segment there, which I don't want. There we go. Now we'll add curve to her calf. Awesome. Left leg is done. We are going to close it from the top by adding a new line. Oop. I do not have my shorts layer locked, and I don't want to accidentally manipulate it, so I'm going to lock my shorts and belt layer. And then if I hover right here, there is this line that I can grab that I just added, and I'm going to drag it up. Let's add another line to close the bottom. Hover until you feel like it is attached. Now let's check that it's attached. Nope. There we go. And then I'm going to curve that up a little bit. Let's start creating the folded up part of her socks using the line tool. I'm going to draw from this side to here and curve that line like this. I'm going to do the same on the other side. Now I'm going to create a line for the bottom and curve it down. And now we attach those new lines. There we go. Once you've adjusted it how you'd like, I'm going to actually adjust this against the reference image because I think that would look better. There we go. Now we are going to start with the shoe. I'm going to actually start with the tongue part of the shoe, this top part right here. Just because this is how I tend to draw the shoe, is by the tongue first. Now let's keep adding lines against the reference image here and here. And now we can create this big front round part of the shoe. I'm going to start by connecting these 2 lines. Get rid of this little extra part. And then curve that up. Now we want to create 2 more lines for the sides. And curve them out as well. There you go. I'm going to add 1 line on the bottom and curve that down. Awesome. Now I'm going to add a line right here and here. And then these 2 lines are going to go from the bottom to the top. And now we can continue editing the top part of the shoe by the tongue. There we go. Now finish the socks. Awesome. Now let's finish the details on the shoe. There we go. Just adjust it until it feels right to you. All right. Now I'm going to create a line right here where the laces are. Now, to create the laces, we're going to want to use our line tool. You're going to want to create 3 lines that are right next to each other. That's going to represent, or maybe 4. We're going to do 4 lines right next to each other, and that's going to represent the tied part in the middle. Then we are going to take this line and put it right here. Select all of that line and drag it out because we're not going to be able to curve it freely since they're on the same layer. This line is on the same layer as the rest of the shoe. So let's edit it now that we know what size we want. Out here, I've got the first part of a loop, and now I will create the second part with another line. And I am going to make it so that the sharper point is the part where it's tied to the bunch of ties here, the knot. What I meant to say. There we go. Now we've got a pretty good shoelace loop. Before we attach that shoelace loop, I am going to connect one line from here to here. They're just going to be straight lines because this represents the actual, like the way your shoelaces are tied, the way they overlap each other and are going like crisscross. You know what shoelaces look like, hopefully. Very good. Now I'm going to box select this loop and duplicate it by pressing Ctrl C and then Ctrl V. Then I'm going to flip it by right clicking, transform, flip horizontal. And let's attach them at the center here. It doesn't have to be touching. I'm going to box select both of those and attach them to my shoe here. And adjust as I need to before I deselect. There we go. Now I'll deselect, and that is a pretty good tied shoelace. Now I can already see that our shoe is going to merge with the other one if we duplicate this shoe, so I'm actually gonna do some editing. I'll tuck that in there, but more importantly, what I need to do is I need to highlight the shoe down from the sock, so I'll box select and then select everything. Actually, I forgot, we need to add the leg as well, so select not only the shoe, but the leg, all parts of the leg. Make sure you aren't missing anything. Even that line that's hiding underneath the shorts. Then I'm going to take this origin point, move it right here, and rotate it very slightly. Move it a little bit as well. There we go. Perfect. Now let's press Ctrl C and Ctrl V, and then right click, transform, and flip horizontal. And put that right behind those shorts, and make sure that they are at the same level as the other shoe. Awesome. That looks great to me. Now let's color our legs. I want to grab the eyedropper tool and select her skin color. Very good. Now let's select the white color of her shirt for her socks. And now we want to also actually put the white color here, everywhere on the shoe where it was originally white. Let me zoom in. Oop, I went a little bit too far. Awesome. And now we need to get that purple color from our color palette up here to the top right, which is the very last one. We have finally colored everything except for the hair, which we are going to work on last. Let me go down to her shoes and color the parts that are a light purple. Make sure that if you notice any missing spots like I am, if you missed any white, you are filling them. Alright, now we've got her legs. I'm going to lock her legs and also lock the bottom half as well as our top half. We are going to start with her hair now, which is going to be, for now, add a new layer separated from the top half and bottom half folders, just one at the very top, and we're going to call it hair. At the end, we will move it to the top of the top half folders, but for now, we are going to work with it outside of those folders. That way, we can turn the opacity of these groups down without having to affect the hair opacity. And we will also be able to see everything being drawn on top, which is how it's going to be at the end. We are going to put it right on top of the head. This last part should be very easy. We are just going to trace with our line tool over the shape of our hair outline. And that is going to be the last part of our character. So let's go ahead and turn the opacity of these two folders sets of layers down. So the top half properties, opacity 50%, right click on the bottom half properties, opacity 50%. And now we are going to make sure we are selecting the hair layer and our line tool, and I am going to start from the top and we are going to work our way down. Now we've got our top half of our hair. Let's go ahead and color it since we've got it done. The second brown color, which is her hair. Very nice. And now we are going to continue with the rest of it. Alright, now we've finished our hair. Let's put our hair layer at the top of the top half layer set, the folder. Then we want to change our opacity to visible on all the layers that we have transparent right now. And then we can get rid of or we can hide our colors and reference layers. And there you go. That's my finished character. Again, her name is Jocelyn. She is the main character of a book series I'm writing. And I made this all with a mouse, so it is entirely possible to create really cool graphics in Animate without using Photoshop and without using a drawing tablet. So if that is your preference, you should definitely lean more towards vector graphics like these. All right, I hope this was helpful. Have a wonderful day.